Hey guys, this is Joe again. Want to do something a little bit different here with part 4. Sort of back up and take a look at just what we're trying to accomplish with all of this link building stuff. I think that it's easy to lose sight of an overall strategy when you get too far down in the weeds. And one of the things that impressed me originally about creating private blog networks was how comprehensive and sort of over top of everything the strategy can actually be. We're going to talk about mini sites in this course, which are, so for lack of a better term, the link farms that people think of, sending link juice to other places that are money sites. But there are more uses, and maybe in some future videos I could talk about some of the other ways that I use them. Let me go to the next slide. So what are we doing here? What I wanted to talk a little bit about with these is how I use my mini sites to accomplish more than just what a lot of people talk about when they bring out some of these, sort of, I don't want to call them, I don't want to be overly negative, but some of the SEO oriented, especially the PBN oriented internet marketing products that have come out lately, I'm not so sure that the education is particularly sound, and I'm real sure that the software creates some situations that would be uncomfortable for people who are trying to put themselves in the right spot with Google. So let's talk a little bit about Google and what it means to have Google love in the first place. For me, it's all about aligning yourself with Google, which on the surface is white hat, but I think it goes a lot deeper than that. I believe that if you were strictly white hat, which means you simply put up websites because you had a lot to say about a particular subject, I think if you did nothing else, you would have to wait for Google to realize that you were there. You would have to count on Google accurately assessing the quality of your information versus the other people who were trying to compete in that space. And I'm not so sure that I want to be that hands off. But at the same time, I understand what Matt Cutts and his team is trying to accomplish. They don't want their search engine to become a laughing stock because people who are doing crazy things manipulate who shows up on page 1. Essentially, they want a surfer to type in a keyword and have the 10 most helpful things show up on page 1. Now, that's never going to happen with a Google algorithm. It's simply not going to be able. First of all, the old style algorithm, which was heavily intensive in terms of reading the text that was on a page, would never get to a human standard and was never going to do that with perfection. So what they did over time with the algorithm is they began to take a look at how that site related with others. So backlinking became important. They looked at things like, I don't know the relative weight of all these things, mind you, but I have some idea. They took a look at whether or not it got Facebook shares or tweets or retweets, a lot of that social engagement. And then they looked at whether or not other authority sites were willing to go out on a limb and link to content that was on your site. And if so, that's a good indication that the authority site believes you have something worthwhile to say. So that's how PBNs came about. We got the idea that we would create our own sort of Uber authority sites and point them at sites where we hadn't had time to develop much in the way of metrics. And so the shortcut there was to artificially inflate their profile so that the search engines would rank them higher. But here's what happened, and this is why I wrote the stuff that ticks, then kaboom. As soon as a new concept comes along, the lazy people, you know these people from the Warrior Forum. You watch the products they sell and the products they buy, and you can tell that their philosophy is, I want to get rich overnight, and really I want to do it while I'm in front of my PlayStation. I don't want to be working while I'm doing it. Well, that doesn't, that never leads to anything substantial, at least in my experience. I guess a lottery ticket's probably just as likely to pay off. So what they would do is they would put up these mini sites. They would go out to an auction, buy a mini site, slam a bunch of spun content on there that wasn't readable. One page, maybe one post. Maybe they would be maybe they would go at it with 2 or 3 posts, and all of a sudden they would turn to a tool like GSA and blast it with 50,000, uh, really spammy backlinks. And then they couldn't figure out why they could never get any movement in the search engine rankings. Well, the reason is that Google's not stupid. Their crawlers really are pretty efficient. They can't duplicate what humans can do, at least at this point, and heaven help us if they ever get to that point. But they're pretty good at looking for stuff that's sloppy, and lazy people are sloppy. So a lot of what we'll talk about in these future lessons is ways that you can do this. They take time because they're not sloppy and they're not halfway done, but I believe that they lead to the most sustainable link juice you can have. So why do I call this spooning with Matt Cutts? It goes back to that alignment that I talked about. Matt wants a page one populated by people who have something worthwhile to say. So what's your answer? Have something to say on these mini sites. Be content to take the time to put content on there that matters. That will take care of Google's automated algorithm crawlers. When they come to visit, they will begin to appreciate what you've got to say. They will maintain your PBNs, the sites on your private blog network. They will maintain the metrics because you've gone out of your way to be legit. And then it gives you some other opportunities that we're going to talk about beyond this friends with benefits, which is the link juice that you can then pass along to domains that you've bought within the last couple of days that have absolutely no metrics, but have their own content and monetization scheme that will make you money if you can just get traffic to them. So you link to them from your mini site, and they begin to rise in the search rankings, and that's how you pick up organic traffic. If you've done your work properly with your keywords, which we're going to talk about very soon, then you'll have buyer keywords that matter. And so when somebody lands on your site through a search, an organic visitor person, as you would say, they have their wallet out and they're ready to do business with you. What's really exciting, and this is the last bullet, more friends with benefits, is that if you build a PBN site properly, you can also monetize it. Now, do they ever make as much money for me as my money sites do? No, to be honest, I've never had one that made more than, in my case, say 40 or 50 or maybe $60 a day. But on average, I would say closer to $30 or $40. But I have a lot of mini sites now, and so $20, $30, $40 a day begins to add up when it's relatively passive income. So we'll talk about that in our upcoming lessons too, because I believe that a carefully placed monetization scheme on your PBN sites is, it's kind of like the extra sauce that leads to some bonus income. Anyway, that's why I think we're here. That's why I think we're interested in building these mini sites. And we'll go on with the next lesson to talk about how you actually put one in place.